We're back here on Yaffee Live. This is Talk Radio 102.3. I am Tennessee's voice of reason, Chattanooga's conservative conscience. And it's at this time every week we speak with Brandon Lewis, who is the founder, contributor to the Tennessee Conservative. And you can read all their stuff at TennesseeConservativeNews.com, and it's free to subscribe. Brandon, how are you this pre-Independence Day show?
Man, I'm so glad to be celebrating America's 250th anniversary. It's going to be fun. I got some friends I go to. I may or may not drive in the Signal Mountain 4th of July parade. I typically do that, but I'm kind of pressed for time. And then we'll have a good finger-losing firework extravaganza at the Lewis household with some friends and family. So we're excited.
Awesome. Okay, so you're big into the fireworks. Like you're getting the good stuff.
Well, I could almost do without it, but one of my fondest memories growing up, we were super poor, and my dad would go down to the fireworks stand, and we would get some little packet. It was probably about this big, next to nothing, and some bottle rockets. But we would amuse ourselves, and I remember on those dark evenings, just it was magical as a kid, and so I don't want to rob my children of that just because I'm lazy.
Gotcha.
So I get out there and make it happen, just like dear old dad did.
Well, it's gonna be warm too, so definitely a little bit of a sacrifice this year.
But it's hot. It's even up on the mountain. We get about a 6-7 degree break, sometimes 10. But boy, it is warm out there.
All right, let's go over some of the stories you have this week at the Tennessee Conservative. We have this one where the Tennessee law making illegal immigration a state crime. It will go into effect. It will go into effect. This is after a failed court challenge on this.
Yeah, so essentially it makes it illegal to be in the state with a pending deportation order, and that it can result up to a year in jail. And so hopefully, as illegal immigrants are looking at places to go live and to flaunt the law, they're like, yeah, maybe the feds won't come after me if the administration changes. However, in Tennessee, I could still get in trouble and pay a penalty. So U.S. District Court Judge Eli Richardson said that the plaintiffs brought by the ACLU didn't show that they were subject to having a valid and outstanding removal orders. They were people that said they could be affected, but they weren't at the time. And so they also denied any class action lawsuits. The bill also creates a crime for persons who try to enter the state if they have a deportation order. But it can only take effect if the U.S. Supreme Court overturns a 2012 case. But it still has enforcement teeth to it. It will be interesting to see if and when the first cases on this new law are enforced. I assume that it will probably coincide with some sort of arrest, which is typically what happens. So we'll wait and see, and likely be the first people to report on it, that it's a good thing. And I'm sure the liberal media will show the pictures of the family, and they'll put it all up in tears, and it's a humanitarian crisis, which is typically the MO that you can expect.
Yeah, and unfortunately, in the past, a lot of Republicans would kind of be scared of that and would refuse to enforce the law, but this year was different. We had the legislature at least try to supplement federal law and help the problem with illegal immigration.
Yeah, I'm excited. We got quite a lot through that made Tennessee look a lot less appealing. Education is still hanging on as our largest $800 million expense in government schools. However, you can't get a handout here for state benefits now. They're starting to check documentation if you've already got a deportation order. So you can't get a commercial license, you can't get a professional license. So it is becoming less and less appealing in Tennessee. And I think that whoever we have as the next governor will certainly be, any of the three, I feel, would be more hawkish on immigration than Lee ever has been, because he's never brought a single initiative. So I'm excited to see that.
Speaking with Brandon Lewis of the Tennessee Conservative, on that note, one, I'm guessing you were not a fan of this Supreme Court decision on birthright citizenship, but we have the story as well where at least one Tennessee congressman has introduced a bill to ban birthright tourism. And that has to do with the fact that it was Brett Kavanaugh who really said, he doesn't believe banning something like that would be unconstitutional. Just can't do it through executive order, was his point. So what do you think about all this?
On the ruling itself, it seems pretty black and white in the Constitution. So I don't like bending that document when it suits our purposes. Just like I don't like to see liberals bending it. There are parts of it that you wish that maybe it wasn't in there. But it was a different time. We were so desperate for population, just to be able to get enough of a militia and trade and everything else. And there was so much growth going on in the colonies that we needed any and all hands. Things change over time. It's kind of like if you have kids and you can afford five of them, you probably don't have six, seven, eight, nine, 10, 15 kids. Like there's a time that
Hmm.
limiting the amounts of humans in a space is good, and there's times when you want more. And so Andy's bill, Andy Ogles, is
Yeah.
essentially called Anchors Away Act, and it states that a person is only subject to the jurisdiction of the United States if at least one of the parents is an American or illegal immigrant, but it would ban pregnant non-immigrants from coming to America. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't know what a pregnant, I'd have to look at the bill language. I don't know what a pregnant non-immigrant is. I mean, because the only thing that I worry about there is what if somebody's just coming over here to visit and they're pregnant and they're here for tourism or something. So it seems a little bit of a sticky wicket, but I'm sure if you dug into the legislation, it would be helpful. Whether or not something like that can get through both houses and get signed by the president is uncertain in
Well,
this environment.
yeah, that was the key thing. What you said at the end there, in this environment. But he's trying to do something. You're right. They would probably, I guess, if you're not just outright banning them from coming into the country, you're at least having it in the language that those kids are not just automatically considered citizens. I guess would be how you fix that. And then you have to wonder though, would that stand up in the courts? Either do you have to do this by
Don't
constitutional
know.
amendment?
Yes, and a constitutional amendment. I don't know when the last time we had one of those
In a bit, yeah.
was. And of course, there are people that are Convention of States fans. They're like, we really need to get back to this. And then there are those that are like, good grief. I mean, that would open up the door to a lot of damage happening quicker rather than slower. So I can see both sides of the argument. To be frank, it's not something I've ever really dug into because it seems like such a large movement and so hard to get your arms around or to get up and going. I kind of look at it as a little bit of idealism in today's political culture and climate. However, it's funny. You think nothing can ever happen like X, Y, or Z, and then 10 years, 20 years goes by, and the
Right.
environment is perfect for it. And you're like, I never thought I'd see this happen. And then there it is.
Yeah, that's a good point. The Convention of States thing is interesting because I tend to be supportive of that, but it's also another one of those things doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon. So, so I mean that's a movement that's going to take a long time to get there. But you're right, it can change. I mean, just look at the fact we overturned Roe v. Wade. It took a long time to get the right justices in place
Hmm.
to do something like that. So that's a good point. Speaking with Brandon Lewis of the Tennessee Conservative, the next story here, talking about things in the courts and things maybe being constitutional or unconstitutional. You have a story about how an appeals court heard a challenge to Tennessee gun laws struck down as unconstitutional. So this is the Tennessee Court of Appeals. They're going to look at a case here.
Yeah, it's so weird. It was struck down as unconstitutional. It's a strange law. It's like intent to go armed. Well, why else would you carry it? It's like if you're not going fishing or hunting, intent to go armed. Like, well, everybody who carries for self-protection is,
Right.
it just, what if something happens? And then another piece of it that is, important to me. I spend a lot of time every year in Tennessee and other states in state parks. I love them. I mean, my litmus test for government is that it's fine if no one else can do it, and if everyone can enjoy it. And in that description, I think in today's modern climate, state parks fit that bill. And so essentially, we now have our government with Scrimeti and Lee appealing it with our own tax dollars, essentially taking our tax dollars to work against our Second Amendment rights. Monty Fritts recently said in a forum that I attended that this is not something that he would support. And so the Gun Owners of America, what's the other group? The Tennessee Firearms Association. They've been trying to work against this for a long time and get this language out. And I think after this courtroom shenanigans and after it being brought to public and causing so much heartburn for so long, I think that maybe this next legislative session will see that language cleaned up and
Makes sense.
tackled would be my guess. We'll see.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good point on the wording of that law. Just kind of interesting. By the way, how did that forum go? I didn't get a chance to go, but Monty Fritts, I know, was the only candidate who showed up, right?
Oh boy, he made a lot of hay out of them not being there.
I'm sure he did, knowing
Um,
him, yeah.
he did, and he was good at it. Like, I mean, I've seen all three candidates. Obviously, Marsha has the name ID and money advantage. Rose has a fair amount of money, not the same name ID. I would say if I had to rank them in order of winning, it would be Marsha, Rose, and Fritz. But if I had to rank them in order of ability to connect with an audience in a retail politics setting, it would probably be exactly the opposite. It would
Huh.
probably be Fritz, Rose, and Blackburn. Or no, Fritz, Blackburn, and Rose in that order. And so he really worked the room. He does great in front of a crowd, but really, he's got a funding issue. And that in a statewide race where you've got to purchase
Yeah.
so many media markets, and when those media markets bleed into other states, Chattanooga gets Georgia, Clarksville gets Kentucky. You look, Memphis gets Arkansas, like essentially 40 to 50% of your budget. Like you got to buy another state and broadcast. And that's just remarkably expensive. Tennessee is probably one of, if not the most expensive southern states to run in because of all of our cities being next to
Right.
borders. So we'll see how it plays out. But it was funny. It's good. I think Tennessee Stands has the full interview on there. It would be worth watching. I thought it was very
Okay.
educational.
Yeah, I saw all three of them. They were at the Lincoln dinner, the Hamilton County
Hmm.
Lincoln dinner, and they both all three of them spoke. And Monty Fritz is definitely a firebrand, I guess would be the way to put that. He is someone who does not hold back. That is for sure. Speaking with Brandon Lewis, I'm very curious your thoughts on this. I don't know where you are on the data center controversy, but a lot of places are wanting to ban it. Hamilton County wants to put a 1 year data center moratorium. That's really more to study it before we do anything. It's probably the best move. But what do you think?
I'm with Weston on this. It makes sense. We don't know what it does. We know that it consumes tons of water and tons of electricity and can be inflationary because of the consumption relative to supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an issue. Further, we don't know what it does to the ground and the soil around it. We don't know what it does to people living around it. If there's, any radiation or noise. I've heard that the things are like remarkably loud with some kind of weird thrum that makes it into people's homes that makes it very difficult to live by one. But dumps and data centers are the same. Everybody wants to use them. Everybody uses them. Nobody wants them anywhere near them. Like
Yeah,
we need them, but they need to be
right.
somewhere else. And I,
That's a good point.
they're not going away.
Right.
The demand for them is only going to increase and increase. That can't be stopped. I don't believe. I have heard from some individuals who are more up on this than I am that just like the computing capacity that we presently have in our phones and computers, that these data centers are going to get smaller and smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not. That is not my forte. But essentially, Weston's saying, hey, let's pump the brakes on this. Let's talk to all the utility providers over the next year. Let's look at the environmental impact. Let's look at the living impact and just see what's what before we just jump on this bandwagon and run down the road. So we'll see what happens with it. But I do think that caution is likely the best way to proceed here,
Yeah,
politically and practically.
right. Yeah. I was calling out on the show. I want someone to invite me to a data center. I just want to go and see it for myself. I want to look at one, and because I hear a lot of what you hear, it causes all these problems, noise, and everything. And it's like, is that true, or do people say that have agenda? I don't know. I'm kind of with you. I'm not an expert on it, so I kind of just want to go to one and see and
From
see if
what
it is.
another thing from what I've been told, the big hook that often gets the corporate welfare dollars out. Well, the big hook is the donations they make to the politicians. The second big hook, the messaging hook, I should say, is it'll bring jobs. And
Mm-hmm.
to my knowledge, like, data centers do
Right.
not require a lot of
No.
people. And so it is just this big monstrous building full of servers and computers and whatever else. And then, like I said, this is not my thing. But so it turns into something quite different. And then, of course, I guess the other thing, Yaffee, I would think is obsolescence. right? It's like we used to have mainframes. We used to have all these big mainframe
Yeah.
systems at universities and things. So what happens when this big, massive computer thing that's now 5 times bigger than the newer one's putting out, like when it gets obsolete, like what? I mean, what happens to it,
We,
and what's
we turn them
what's
into
it look like
breweries
when it's
and
left?
shopping centers. That's what we've done with the old
Yes,
factories,
oh,
you know?
I could see it. You could go,
That's what we're
it
going
can
to
be
do.
called the data center brewery. You'll be in there. All the lights
Yep,
and stuff will be on,
exactly.
but it won't be processing anything. You'll be able to get a tap out of
That's
every
exactly what's
server.
going to happen.
Yeah, I'm glad you're already thinking ahead.
Buy it now. Brandon Lewis, really appreciate you coming on, my friend. People can find these stories at TennesseeConservativeNews.com and their social media as well. Brandon, we'll talk to you again soon.
Stay cool, buddy, and keep your fingers.
All right, there you go. I'll try. We'll be back in a moment here on Yaffee Live. Stay with us.